Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. During the week, the NLC held election in the State Council to elect leaders at the state level. We'll also be discussing about the plight of workers in the oil and gas sector and the several challenges they are faced with. We will be right back.
Accreditation was done outside the Dr. Gabriel Okara Cultural Center in Yenagoa. Up for contention are positions for the auditor, vice chairman and chairman of the state chapter of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Delegates of the various labor unions cast votes for preferred candidates before the counting process was concluded.
Comrade Itimu John Bipriye, having scored the highest vote cast for this position for chairman by scoring 293 votes, is hereby elected as chairman for Bayelsa State Council.
The support that I receive from the workers gives me more confidence that I should do more for them. And I assure you that that is exactly what I am going to do. We will be stronger and we will work together because our unity is our strength. And even those who have lost elections today, they have not lost. Let us be united. Let us work together. For the goal is the same. And I think that once we are together, surely victory is sure.
I will urge him to work better, to work harder. It's comrade thing. It's today and tomorrow, so there are no issues. The contending factors tend to push the other factor. So I think my presence will push him a bit tougher.
The election was superintended by the Deputy President of the Nigeria Labour Congress.
The primary aim of governance is to defend and protect the welfare of the workers. And I believe that was why the people have made choice and decisions today. And therefore the only way to return the dividends to the people is to ensure that their rights are not actually violated by the employers, both at the private sector and the public sector. And when you stand in for them, I think you should be doing well and believing that that is the expectation of everyone elected into office.
I wouldn't say we've reached where we are supposed to be. There is more to be done. We know in this struggle, it's not always antagonism. There's also time for dialogue and negotiation. But I want to advise the newly elected executive to make sure that workers' welfare is given top priority.
Through allegiance to the Nigerian Labour Congress.
The new executive of the NLC has been inaugurated with John Bipre Ndiomu as chairman for his second term.
In other states, council chairman, vice chairman, and auditor emerged. Many of the workers and newly elected labor leaders want speedy implementation of the approved 30,000 naira minimum wage.
When you talk of minimum wage, we have been talking of minimum wage, we have not been talking of maximum wage. A time should come when we address it that whether you work in the presidency or you work in the National Assembly, you must not earn an outrageous salary that we further pauperize the majority of the workers in the country.
Student, academia, labor leaders, legal icons, and other citizens gathered at the University of Lagos to witness the public presentation of the Minority Report of the 1976 Draft Constitution. Director of Center for Democratic Development, Research and Training, Abubakar Siddiq, said the Minority Report, which was drafted 43 years ago by Olusegun Oshoba and Yusufu Bala Usman, opposed some recommendations of the 47 other members of the Constitution Drafting Committee. According to the director of the center, the crisis currently rocking the country would have been minimized if the Minority Report had been adopted.
There is no challenge which the authors faced at the time they were writing or preparing this document which has been surmounted in this country. But one challenge which they confronted, which still face us today, is in a more acute form, is the formulation of a constitution and a structure of governance which is truly democratic in content and as well as inform.
For the past 4 decades since this constitution, and even before, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And that's because the ethos for those in government is, as I put it, their primary agenda is to loot the treasury directly.
We have issues of constitutional immunity, we have issues of these indigenous settler issues, we have issues of overprotecting wealth against overprotecting life, we have issues where people can be governors, then they can have pension as senators, all sorts of things that prevent equal distribution of wealth and create the crisis we have. So we think this document is going to begin the debate, or let me say continue.
Human rights lawyer Femi Falana, who reviewed the minority report, said it was a democratic constitution that addressed the issue of the nation's unity and capable of moving Nigeria forward.
Many great constitutions are in fact slim in volumes, simple. The 1979 Constitution is a deliberate effort at mystification for the selfish interests of the bourgeoisie. The Constitution is verbose. It is laden with technical loopholes.
Labour leaders at the event spoke on the significance of the minority report for Nigerians if adopted.
If we cannot take care of the welfare of our people, then certainly governance has failed. That is the truth of it. Whereas the Constitution is very explicit that we shouldn't put wealth in the hands of very few, that wealth should be distributed, and you can only do that through a social policy.
Now that the minority report has been presented to the public, it is expected that there would be relevant discussions on the impact it could have on Nigerians.
Ideally, either you call it first subsidy or deregulation. Yes, it's a good policy. But with the level of poverty in the country, removal of subsidy or deregulation, especially import driving deregulation, we have a negative impact on the average income of Nigeria. Right now, everybody is suffering. Nigeria, things are not as it ought to be. So, come with a deregulation policy at this period, it will really increase the poverty level of Nigerians. My message to the government is to repair the refinery, to put the refinery, to fix it. Because we cannot have a product and we now be importing the same product, export it and bring it back. We are creating jobs for other countries. To me, I would prefer that our refinery should be fixed. We can refine locally. Then if we refine locally, we can deregulate. It now means it's locally driving deregulation, not import one.
Naturally, it's good to deregulate, but we are not ready for the deregulations. If we have 3 refineries and they are not working to capacity, we could simply build another one. It's not a taboo that we should build. If we're doing something in a certain way and it's not working for us, we can do it in another way that will work for us. If overhauling the existing refineries are not working, nobody is placing it on us that we couldn't build. Nigeria is even too big for 3 refineries to be working. So there should be a proactive system that, okay, we're looking at in 3 years' time, we want to deregulate. What can we do within now and that 3 years? Building 10 refineries, making the fuel available. Then if we are deregulating, nobody will even feel it. The system will have been in place that will make local refining easier for us. But if we have 3 dead refineries and we say we're deregulating, then we're inviting trouble.
As a Nigerian, about the fuel subsidy removal that has been in the news, and there's a possibility that the Nigerian government wants to deregulate the oil sector.
Yeah, the issue of subsidy removal has become contentious. It depends on the people that are looking at it. For some, there people believe that there are cartel that are benefiting from the subsidy removal. That is subsidy that the government is still using to cushion the effect of international prices of crude. You know, but to ordinary Nigerians, the subsidy removal means increase in the pump price of petroleum product. As of today, it is 145 naira per liter. So there is a disagreement that ordinary is supposed to be costing not less than 180 naira per liter. Some are even saying it's 200. So the question is that at this critical period that people are finding it to feed, people are finding it to even do anything. If you remove the so-called subsidy, how are they going to cope? Because it's going to affect everything, both the goods, what you buy in the market, the house rent, the transportations. So it's going to have spiral effect on every socio-economic activities in the country.
On the Profile Interview segment this week, I will be speaking with the national president of NUPENG, Comrade Williams Akporea. He tells me the union resists any policy that would impact negatively in the oil and gas sector and the general public. Take a listen. It's good to have you on the program.
Yes, ma'am.
A lot is happening in the oil and gas industry, and I'm concerned, what are the challenges you would say that the oil and gas workers are faced with?
Yes, the oil and gas sector is a dynamic one. Today we hear of price of crude going up, tomorrow we hear it's coming down. And the challenge is that once it goes up, in that manner, it has very effect on workers, because as we speak, companies are saying, their operational activities has reduced. One, they also attributed that to budgets that have not been passed, and so federal government too is also not forthcoming on their, counterpart funding and all that. So, to a great extent, it impacts, on our workers in the sector.
How are you coping? What are the measures you've put in place to ensure that probably you inform the relevant authorities on the need for them to expedite the passage of
well, to a great extent, we're engaging them. We're engaging the Ministry of Petroleum, on the necessary to do, because clearly investors will need, enabling environment, to operate, and we're also engaging, the Ministry of Petroleum. And majorly, Ministry of Labor to a great extent has also risen to, their bidding, because they take up, issues, from the oil and gas, more seriously these days. Especially when it has to do with, workers' welfare and challenges, affecting workers generally.
So, what's your take on the trend of having private investors wanting to invest in our refineries, because we know that we are due to have many more, or probably service those ones that we have right now?
Yeah, I want to attribute that to a failure on the part of government, because even if investors don't come, you also have the capability, to also put such structures in place. Talk about, this refinery we're even talking about. Every time we talk of maintenance, turnaround maintenance, can't we get new refineries? We say government cannot also build more refineries, and we even say that it's only federal government that can build. What happened to state government? State government in the Niger Delta region can build refineries in their states. They can also invest in that. So I'm just opportunity to also call the state government, especially in Niger Delta area, Delta state government, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, they can also build refineries. to employ their youths, and also adds to the value supply chain in petroleum products.
And as the labor leader, you've said it that it will actually generate employment. What other benefits do you think this will have in the country if we have more private individuals building refineries in the country?
Yeah, definitely it will reduce importation and capital flight. The money we use in importing petroleum products from outside, that money, could be used inward. And again, the issue of whether subsidy removal or not, I think would not also even arise, because the product, is being produced at home, and we're consuming it, at local level. So I'm sure there are a lot of benefits we'll all enjoy from it.
There is this issue of IOCs involving themselves in unfair labor practice. What are the unfair labor practices that the union is faced with at the moment, and what are you doing as an individual or as a national president to address this issue?
IOCs don't seem to have core jobs anymore. Every job in IOCs are outsourced. We don't know what the core jobs of these companies are anymore. Talk of Chevron, Shell, Mobil. Every job in that place is outsourced. So that means the business of even producing oil in Nigeria is just very commercial, that they cannot even employ Nigerians as permanent on permanent basis anymore.
Well, we have them. We have lots of expatriates in the country that are actually core staff. So why do we find ourselves? Of
course, that's the challenge we are facing. When expatriates can come, and work, on permanent basis, that Nigerians cannot do so. And this has been, our challenge all this while, because according to even the contractors they assign these jobs to, they also advise them not to even identify with unions. The case of Shell, is very pathetic. Yes, Shell said they are no more operating in the that is in the creeks and in the lands, and they are now only in the offshores. So because of that, they don't give a hoot about what happens to workers. All what they do is outsource whatever jobs they have. And what you hear them say is that if there are issues, they say, go and meet the contractor. The workers most times don't even know the contractors. These are portfolio contractors. Most times, these contractors don't even have offices. Where if there are challenges today, the workers will run to and say, you are my employer, please, these are my challenges. Most times, look at the challenge we're having with NIOC today. The contractors themselves have refused to pay workers' salary. And the client, which is NIOC themselves, are saying there's nothing they can do about it. Who brought in this contractor in the first place? It's NIOC, the principal. But now they are telling the union that there's nothing they can do if the contractor refuses to pay salaries. So at this point, on whose account do we now hold? So honestly, there are challenges, I tell you.
But can you tell us how the workers are actually taking this? Because we have many of them that have probably served more than 10, 15 years that find themselves in this situation. And we know, according to the Nigerian labor law, there's a period of months that you should work before you be confirmed.
In the oil and gas industry today, there's no more permanent job. Every worker you hear that is going offshore, that working in a company today, 90% of them are just contract workers. The most challenging part of it is that they are even on some are on 6 months contract now. Every 6 months is renewed. Every 12 months. The highest that we have, in the sector now is 12 months job. After 12 months, they renew it again. I think all is the essence of this is to ensure that the workers don't really get organized. Because I don't understand why a job that is permanent in nature will continue to recruit workers, on temporary basis.
And what effect does this have in terms of the actual performance or actual targets that probably the company or the oil companies are supposed to actually meet?
For them, they see that, there's so much unemployment in the country. So they can afford, to hire and fire at any time. Of course, they will tell you that if you don't renew your contract in 6 months, or if you are not ready to renew in another 12 months, of course, there are millions outside there they can also recruit. In fact, in some cases, while some are working, they are training others, to stand by. So that once you become very agitative, of course, you are flushed out.
So what do you want relevant authorities to do in terms of addressing these issues?
I think our National Assembly should also rise up to the occasion. We should come out with laws. We should come out with laws. Labor law in this country today, as I see it, it's not rising up to the occasion. These employers in the oil and gas seems to have understand the situation that even the citizens are handicapped. Yes, Minister of Labor is trying his best, but to a great extent, it's the law that is on ground that they apply. So if the law too, does not also respond to the dynamics of the time, you continue to see the challenges we are facing today.
Do you think that Nigeria is ready or ripe for total deregulation in the oil and gas sector?
Well, if you use the word ripe, it has to do with how ready, the government is. Because who provide amenities? It's the government that provides amenities. And if you deregulate, clearly there are consequences. How it will affect the masses and the citizens. So you must be able to also put all that in place before you say you want to totally deregulate.
So what are the palliatives that you think that the government should put in place before the mention of deregulation of the oil and gas sector?
First, a good government is about the people. For us, if you must, remove subsidy from the oil sector, we expect that such subsidies should also be moved to, like the transportation, sector, electricity, agriculture, and a way of also providing some social benefits, for the youth, so that what you're also gaining from the sector, should be, taken to other sector.
But do you think, in general, that we're ready for this?
Well, with political will, of the present administration, I'm sure that is achievable.
Okay, moving forward, recently the issue of Comrade Frank Kokori not inaugurated into the NSITF board actually came up some few weeks ago. How dear is this issue to the NUPENG?
Well, thank you very much, for this question. Honestly, it's very dear to us. The capacity of Comrade Frank Kokori, I think it should be dear to every, right-thinking Nigerian, because he's a man, that also suffered for this country. How the Ministry of Labor, we want to carpet, the integrity and dignity of such a man. Even when you look at that man, he deserves more than that. To us in NUPENG, that's our Nelson Mandela. For the president of this country, to have decided to honor that man with that position, why would somebody want to shortchange that? That's what we can't really fathom. What offense on earth did Frank Kokori commit not to be given the right position that was approved by the president? Why is somebody trying to change the situation? Well, my neck has resolved. That is an issue, they will take up, to any level, and I think we are ready for that.
Okay, the president gave his assent to 30,000 naira as minimum wage, and though it's not implemented yet, many workers are still very expectant. But there's been the news also everywhere that the current rates of standard of living in the country and the issue of inflation are still some of the issues that probably might not make the 30,000 naira a living wage for an average Nigerian worker.
Well, in every situation, you expect such uproar, but we have the belief too that the situation will calm down. But the major agitation we'll have is where employers, we want to refuse the implementation. So our position here too is that government should not just stop at just assenting to the bill. They should also ensure that major stakeholders, talking about the employers, also pay the amount.
What of states that are still not able to pay 18,000?
I'm not sure there's any state in this country that does not have the capability. Every state in Nigeria has the capability to pay 30,000 naira. And if any state refuses to pay that, NUPENG will join all workers in that state to fight such a government.
The May Day celebration would be celebrated by workers in some few days.
Yeah.
Is there any message you have for them? And is there any expectations you will have from your members and the government?
Yeah, to God be the glory, this year's May Day will be celebrated jointly, with all centers. We're talking about ULC, NLC, and TUC. And I think to us, this is the beginning of greater things to happen, to Nigerian workers in this country. I hope this unity, be maintained, and I ask workers, especially when I got to remain steadfast, and that the future is not too bleak, that is bright.
It was an interesting conversation I had with you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.